Just a few more minutes and I'll be right there. Just finishing the last stuff up. Welcome though, everybody. Welcome. You know, let's just get to it, shall we? Why does it say the Astropub live stream? What's going on? Something is wrong with YouTube. All right, well, I'm just going to go to live chat rather than the control room because YouTube's going kind of weird. Welcome, everybody. Yeah, John Merrill, you're the first. First of his name, John Merrill. All right, let me pull up background music and get started. Yeah, there's just a bunch of problems with the with everything today. I don't know how well I sound just because we started moving everything out of my office and getting everything packed because we're moving. So bringing everything up. Bot should be up. Those of you guys on Twitch. I don't know why it's taking its sweet time to do so, but it is. Everything's taking longer than it should. Been a week of weird technological errors. I'll just do this because everything else is messing up. There you go. Updated the new 310 AI? Yeah. This out. Let's get to the office, shall we? Oh, wait, I have to do the right thing. Professional streamer, guys. Professional streamer. Totally professional. There we go. Hello and welcome to the Astropub. My name is Paul Berserker01 Batman Shelley. Welcome to the office hours. We're here talking about Star Citizen lore and more. Welcome. Willie Rigby, Austin, John, Mr. Squarepeg, Micker, Fledger, Pramster, thank you so much for that Twitch Prime for 24 months. Micker, thank you for Twitch Prime for 8 months. Let me change all of the community reward, channel points and everything, community rewards. Probably not going to have the SFX on for these. Yeah. Conca, P&B salt, PB and salt. Lower and more, yeah. Retweet, spread the love. All right. Yeah, as usual, it's only one connected for some reason. All right, we'll do this. Yeah, you can. If you have that right now. Hair grows fast. I told you guys my hair is like a chia pet. No one believes me. Everyone thought I was wearing a wig. So shave the hair off and suddenly the hair's growing back quickly and they're like, oh, it's not a wig, I guess. No. Stop it. It's not a wig. It's not. Some of this. Give the retweet and spread the love, guys. So, before we get started, I did something. I used to do these things all the time when I was younger, and it helped me practice a lot with my editing skills. So every so often I'll go through YouTube. There's usually a large cache of trailer music. And if you're wondering, like, a lot of the music that you hear on trailers for video games, television shows, and movies isn't actually composed for the trailer or the TV series, for the trailers themselves. They're often using stock music elements which are made by artists who are smaller, some of whom are dedicated solely to trailer music. And trailer music has gotten, it's kind of a niche genre, but it's kind of gotten some appreciation recently. A group called Two Steps from Hell, which many people have heard, they are basically professional trailer musicians. They got one of their songs was used for Mass Effect 2, I think, or Mass Effect 3's trailer, and got a lot of attention. And so there's a bunch of different caches out there for trailer music. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, it's often cool to go through and find some cool ones, because then you'll hear them in like various trailers. But hey, I recognize that music. I know who did that. And they're usually really small artists. So I always like to do that just for fun. And so I came across a song I'd heard before called "Burn All the Bridges," and it was done, I think, 3 or 4 years ago, back when like Hunger Games and a lot of those other kind of like more dystopian movies were coming out. So there's a lot of trailer music from that time which was very melancholic and tense, often using vocals which are very like nursery rhyme-esque or like very seemingly epic. And I always felt that it would be a good trailer for a video game, especially when centered around war or violence. And so I found it again after like 2 or 3 years since I've heard it, and I said, you know what? I could do this, because there's something that has always bothered me. The Squadron 42 teaser trailer that came out was all right. It's just not a good trailer. Trailers are supposed to get you interested in the product, and they're also supposed to show off a little bit of a story. They have to have a little story to them, like mini movies. And you want to keep them concise. You show too much, it becomes disjointed or boring, or you risk giving away the plot. And what CIG did was really just kind of drop some plot elements in and have some fades between them with some music, which wasn't very well composed for it. I'm not shitting on Pedro, he's a fantastic composer. It's just, for me, it didn't seem to resonate well. It didn't have the right highs and lows, and it was a little too long. it felt more like they had some music that Pedro had composed, or he had a short time to compose it, and they had a bunch of scenes that they'd already rendered for cinematics, and they just threw them together right before CitizenCon because that was the deadline. It felt more slapped together than it was planned as marketing. So me being the aged, experienced, 14-year-old boy who used to pull open his editing software and try to make stuff, decided to go to my roots, since I'm painting miniatures, Warhammer miniatures again, which is I haven't done for almost 30 years. Well, I'm old, almost 20 years, I should say. So I figured, why not go back even further? So I put my latest skills to test, and did a kind of an alternative fan cut of the trailer to give it a little bit more pizzazz with that music. So I'm going to show it to you guys right now. But it's already up on YouTube. It's already available. Thank you, Roland. Burn off. Yeah. Yeah, Jesse, you're doing good, man. Old man confirmed. Yes. I can say almost 20 years because I say almost 30 years. That would have been when I was 3. I'm 33, but time marches on. Yes, I plan on playing Darktide for sure. There's also another one that's coming out in September. That's it's like Warhammer 40k but XCOM. I forgot what it's called, but I'll probably be playing that. If I do Darktide, I'm dragging the people I know who play 40k with me, if I can, to play together, like Detox and Loken and that crew together for it. So Battletech stuff, yeah. I've been trying to find some Battletech stuff. I've been having fun painting these miniatures, and I figured, like, in the distant future, once I'm finished painting this army up and kind of getting that done, I'd go back to Battletech. But there seems to be a lot, like, the Battletech minis are very small now. They seem to be very, very tiny. Thank you, Joseph. So we're going to watch the trailer really quickly for those of you guys who haven't seen it yet. It's also on YouTube. You can watch it there as well. But if you're just finding me because of the trailer, hello, I'm Paul. We do Star Citizen content, but mostly we do focus on lore here on the Astro. But we do also do on Saturdays, we do a podcast. We talk about Star Citizen, where I bring people from all over the Star Citizen community to talk about it. So let me pull up the video. And we're going to watch it together. Yeah.
Tear down the bridges.
Oop. Let me rewind this and then pump up the volume and make sure this is off. All right, there we go. Here we go.
Tear down the bridges, drain all the rivers, burn down the town hall. There are no winners. Reload the weapons, sharpen the scissors, cut off the fetters, pull all the triggers.
I saw you apply to the Flight Academy again.
I'm your new wingman, sir.
The coil. Local scum use it for cover to launch attacks. This is their turf, so move on. Keep your eyes open.
And everyone screaming when the lights go out.
We will not lose the system. We will not fall back. We will win! Because we have to.
This is the pub cut, yes. Welcome. So we made our own. Kind of. It's more like I decided to do this on a whim. It was more as I was saying earlier, it just kind of the pieces fell into place and I had time. That took me about 3-4 hours to put together. Yes, I did realize that. So thank you so much. There, Aurelia. There's how you say it. Aurelia plays. Thanks so much for that raid. Welcome. My name is Paul. Welcome to the Office Hours. This is where we talk about Star Citizen. We talk about Star Citizen, Squadron 42. We do lore mostly here for this broadcast, but we play the game. We do other things as well. So pub cut. Yeah. It is very much. Yeah, let me bump the volume. There we go. That should be better. The reason why it was lower is because Discord does weird things, and we were recording a episode of Info Runners, and Execute's like, "Why are you so fucking loud?" And I was like, "Oh, right." So, for those of us who know, that's entirely Star Citizen footage. All of that is footage from Squadron 42 trailers or from Star Citizen videos. That city that's burning is supposedly Vega. It's from the Militia Mobilization Initiative video, which came out in 2016. And then the some of that footage is from the visual teaser, from the 2019 visual teaser. Some of it is from the 2018 teaser trailer. And then that last one is just the Arrow commercial because it worked well with the beats. Yes, the pub cut is posted on YouTube. I posted it just before we went live. So I have not played the PTU, only the live version recently, and I have mixed feelings. The performance is better. 30Ks are about the same in my experience. 30Ks are just 30Ks. I haven't played 3.10.1 yet though, so. Can CIG copy strike me? They can if they want. To be fair though, before I posted it on YouTube, I sent that video to Tyler. And he said something to the effect of, if you post this, it's probably going to get around to the office, so don't worry about it. They fixed the rock? How did they fix the rock though? What's the status of the Idris video? Oh, John, Idris video is coming up tomorrow. It's available right now for Patreon backers. But if you guys want to watch it, it'll be up tomorrow around 4 p.m. Pacific, or 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Eastern, or 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. So. Picks up all the stones. Oh, nice. Rocks can hold rocks now. Yeah, I've heard that that's a bug, that there's a zero UEC bug. Thank you, Carbon. Yeah, I saw a couple of people like, is this legit? Is this legit? Is this an actual trick? It's like, no, it's mine. It's my version. It's my version. I definitely stick to the PTU. Honestly, we're getting to the point where if CIG can't implement iCache or any of the kind of back-end server stability, there's almost no point in adding anything. You know, and if CIG keeps adding things with all these problems, unless they're going through and severely, you know, working on stability, then I wouldn't even play. I mean, I will, but I wouldn't suggest your average person play. 310, I don't think 310 is a disappointment because they fixed a lot of the problems in terms of gameplay. The gameplay's a lot better. Like the performance is better, the feel is better. It's just so many problems with the back end. And Diablos hit me with this realization. Oh, he hit me with this realization, which is one of the things that we saw in PTU was I saw in PTU even after Evocati was outposts disappearing entirely, just wouldn't load in, period. And Diablos had a theory that they may have already started doing, because CIG does not work like Lego bricks. They don't take something like iCache or server meshing and just insert it into the game. They do it by stages. And one of the theories that Diablos had was that was a sign that they're actually implementing iCache. And that the vanishing outposts has to do less with the simulation and more with that the simulation is delayed because it's trying to pull the information from the backend server, which is taking a long time for them to talk. So the iCache, it's pulling the data out of iCache and putting it back into the game, out of the cache and putting it back into the game. So, and I thought, that actually might make sense. That may be the reason for a lot of the issues like UEC disappearing. There's some back-end issues with their information servers is just causing the problem, because a lot of it is progression issues. It's having to do with how much your money disappearing, your equipment disappearing, your ships disappearing. Now that's happened before, but it's happening a lot more in 3.10 than it happened in 3.9 and 3.8. Any news on meshing? Not going to happen until they get iCache and more stable servers. They posted I forgot who the name is. I almost say John Crew, but John Crew's not the answer. Clive Johnson, I think. Clive Johnson is he posted an update about server meshing, and he basically said, we're working on a lot of other fixes, and it's not just their team, it's a lot of other teams that are preparing for server meshing. Some teams have already finished preparing for server meshing, others are still working on it. So there's being work done behind the scenes, but there's no information on it being released yet. Nothing on the Ares either. So that the name of Squadron 42 is 2-2. Joseph, I would totally redo the Squadron 42 video for the rate that a typical video editor would charge, which is not something they want to do. So it's not a head start on the Halloween special? What? What isn't? TG? I think that they'll try with server to network stability, and I think they'll definitely try it with iCache. Every time they've implemented new backend tech, they've tried to increase the player count, though it hasn't really worked very well beyond 50. So here's the thing, user, and this is one of the things that it's important to remember about Squadron 42, is that Squadron 42 was built specifically to be modular. So Squadron 42 has already been written, and most of it has already been filmed in terms of mocap. That's not just Squadron 42. That's Squadron 42 Part 1, 2, and 3. Because Squadron 42 originally was this big, epic, like 90-hour game that Chris Roberts wanted to make. And they were like, yeah, let's break that up into several so we can, like, get the stuff done rather than having to, like, work for 10, 20 years on one game. So they broke it up, and the concept was that this is back when Aaron was in charge. So I don't know if he's still in charge. But when was that you do episode 1, you do for the first chapter, Squad 42 chapter 1. And then when that's done, all of the base technology and R&D is finished. So then you can work on episode 2 and episode 3 with that same technology. Now you can implement new things along the way, but the base technology is there. So essentially it's you build the engine for number 1, and then you can get 2 and 3 out pretty quickly. And the idea was every 2 years. 2 and 3 would be done 2 years after the first one, and 3 would be the 2 years after that. That's they thought the turnaround time could be. Now this is the same, because a lot of this was because the same team that worked on the Lego games were the ones who reported over to Squadron 42, and that's how they built the Lego games. They built the first Lego game with an engine and got to know how everything worked, and then they were able to just churn out Lego games like crazy because they had the back end working. It's all pretty much the same game. Well, they modified things here and there. So that was the concept behind it. Yes, Squadron 42 is a prequel to this PU. Ghost Stations. The whole story is written and acted out. All of the audio files have been recorded. I've heard maybe 40% of them. I don't know how many is in episode 1 and episode 2. Essentially, yeah. You build the engine, and then build the rest of the car over time. It's more like you build the engine, you put some seats down, and you have some wheels, and then using that frame, you build it. You're still driving it around, but you're building it out, so you're finishing up. And Squadron 42 and Star Citizen are so tied together that what you see in Star Citizen is what you see in Squadron 42. So that combat update for Star Citizen, that's Squadron 42 combat right there. I think it still needs some tightening up, but good, very good. I approve, especially since Squadron 42 is a PvE game, and if that's their focus on PvE, I'm okay with that. You also got to remember that a lot of the AI issues are not from the AI coding. We actually sat down and talked with Firefly earlier, who was able to get a peek at some of the AI code through back channels. And as he said, basically, it's good code. It's good AI stuff. There's some stuff which is sloppy, but it's in spaghetti. But, you know, a project that's 8 years old, you can have some spaghetti. And a lot of it is going to be server performance. That server performance is what's just destroying AI behavior and tick rate, because the processors are being used up. And he talked about how, and I think CIG's even talked about this, is moving a lot of the AI calculations off of the CPU and putting them on the GPU to try to offload some of the CPU effort, so that on servers, I don't know if servers have GPUs, I guess they do, but something like that. I agree, Malachor. Pretty much, like Malachor, you're asking, like, so there's an answering the call with Cutlet and Moist Doodle. You've seen both of them on the Captain's Table before. We talked about PvP about them too. And they said their biggest thing was that basically it's impossible to find people to PvP with, because there's too many places and not enough location. There's too many locations and not enough players on the servers. And I agree. I agree that that's a major issue. You need to increase the player cap. And I think that's a big thing that's holding back CIG. I also don't think CIG would disagree. I think CIG is there's a lot of work being done at CIG, but this is a brand new game and effectively a brand new engine when building this game. So a lot of it is slow work right now. A lot of it is the unsexy, getting everything, all the stuff, the parts put together. Because once you have the tools to build it, the gameplay assets are a lot easier to create. Gameplay is easier to make than engine refactors. You know, most of the people who are in charge of CIG have made a game before. Not everyone in CIG has made an engine before. So. You had to start. Oh, okay. But you have a home with cats and dogs and a farm. Otherwise, there's nothing to fight for in PvP. I mean, yeah, you also need more space. You need space, and you need things to fight over with. But we already have plenty of space. You know, you don't necessarily need Martha to defend your Imam Martha from the from invading aliens. You just need a reason to not die. That's easier to make than it is to put a number of players in. So part 2 will be a major event in the PU, or will it tie in? We don't know. Part 2, I think it's all one story, and I think episode 1, 2, and 3 are all prequels to the PU. It'll depend on how far back they take place. I think they take place probably by the time 3 comes out. It'll probably be a good 10 years from the events of 3, but we'll see. I don't like the fact that my all of my tools are broken, chat. Why'd you have to break my tools? Restream's not picking up all of the ones. Why'd I say that name? TG Yelp got that reference. Nick should come out immediately after Pyro. Yes. Nick's is already done. I mean, because the hardest... So, from what I've gathered from the interviews and the way that the development teams talk, the hardest part of Star Citizen in terms of systems, building like planetary systems, is now just the landing locations, because each landing location has to be unique. They have to build special assets for them. Now they still have a pipeline for assets, so they can still build assets fairly quickly. But each area is going to have to be unique. They can't look the same. So they have to go through and change some of the styling and some of the corridors, add little details here and there, and that takes time. And the thing about Nyx is that Nyx's landing zone is Levski in Delamar, so that's already done. The hard part is done. The easy part, which is the planets, should be fairly simple for them to do, and the stations should be fairly simple for them to do. There's no point in adding Nyx until you have Pyro, and no point in having Pyro until you have server meshing. Now I know there's that leak that CIG is going to plan on releasing Pyro by the end of the year. We'll see. I mean, a sneaky 4.0 would be interesting, but I also, based off of what I've heard, which is like, oh shit. Let me respond to that. So I can go to Silas Kerner and ask why Omega is just a skin for the camera now. Oh man. Will part 2 be like a DLC for the PU where they'll have to pay for it anymore? No. So you'll have to pay again. The only people who are going to get part 2 for free are the people who pledged way early on for the expansion, the planned expansion pack, which was called Secret Missions. But that changed from being 1 game to being 3 games, so they decided to honor that by saying that instead of a DLC, those backers got the additional 2nd game when it comes out. So no one has access to Squadron 42 Part 2. You'll have to pay for it separately. It'll be a separate $60 game. But based off of what CIG has said, Squadron 42 Part 1 is going to be a 20-hour experience with optional missions, which could take it up to 40 hours, which will include stealth missions, FPS missions, space combat missions, discussion and kind of like diplomacy-esque, more social interactions, on stations, all of it taking place at stations and spaceships, on planets and moons, that kind of stuff, in a semi-open world experience. By semi, I mean you're limited in terms of your mission area, but your mission area may include an entire freaking planet. So... $60. Avenger Titan is $55. I don't know how you're buying 3 for $60. For $60. Yeah, that's a good plan. Keeping your hype low for Squadron is probably a good plan. I'm interested because I've heard all the audio files and I know the mission titles, so I know what happens. And I'm just going to. I don't see this as a spoiler. I see this as a warning. The game is not going to let you make decisions that will fundamentally alter the story plots. You will not. The same things will happen in the game whether you make the right decisions or not. It is the details in that mission which will matter. Similar to previous Wing Commander stories. Not Wing Commander 1 because that was a little bit more different, but this is not a game that will like you fundamentally alter the game. There's a story that is told. You are part of that story. It is more that you are a soldier in a war rather than Commander Shepard saving the galaxy. You have a chance to alter the outcome slightly, but you're not going to change the whole war. Exactly. One for each game? You could. Oh, yeah, no, Joseph, I think they will. I actually don't think that they're going to do a lot of that DLC. I think a lot of the plans that CIG has for... okay, I keep forgetting to do this. I gotta talk about this because YouTube reviews won't see this. He's asking about like a WoW level DLC for the PU, and the answer is yes. Probably like something like what it's called, Armageddon or something like that. I can't remember the one where they completely changed the maps. You had to pay for it. I think Star Citizen will probably do that, but I don't think they'll do it in DLC form. I think the goal of that Chris Roberts has is a living universe with events in that universe, which may be scripted or may be pushed. So the universe will change. The way that this universe looks will change. There may be landing zones which will be completely destroyed or completely altered sometime when the game is launched because of an event. That's the plan long term. When is Star Citizen going to be a good fare for citizenship? Cataclysm, thank you. Cataclysm. Yes, Kalik, I believe they said it was a bug. The wipe that set everyone to 0 UEC is a bug, back-end bug, and I think they're trying to reset it. Do we have any idea what's going on with CitizenCon itself? Like, are they actually planning on having one this year? No, there's no CitizenCon this year, and they said they are not having a digital event. As of recently, they said they're not doing a digital event. I feel like they're probably going to do some video. I wouldn't be surprised if they did something like they usually do with their regular presentations. So like a keynote speech. but it won't be like a live stream. It'll probably just be pre-recorded. I'm sure they'll have some information and news. I wouldn't be surprised if we got major updates on Squadron 42 by the end of the year. And I say that because everyone, we've been talking a little bit about Squadron 42. And I'll go a little bit more into the lore of Squadron 42 so you guys have an idea of like what you're playing with Squadron 42 and kind of the context. And I will make a lore video so that you can understand the context of Squadron 42. No sub dance? Was there a sub? No, not when I do Captain's... No, when I do office hours. No sub dance during office hours. Thank you so much, Target Drone, for the Twitch Prime for 2 months. I know there was a way in Wing Commander 3 to alter the outcome. You fuck up in a previous mission, and the Killer Athlete will assault the solar system without end. Do I think devs are working on Squadron 42 to be shifted to PU after Squadron 42 launches, or will they be shifted? So, I think I was answering that earlier. Essentially, I think Squadron 42 devs will stay on Squadron 42. I think the important thing to remember is that when Squadron 42 is done, there's no longer tools needed to be developed for Squadron 42. So those tool makers, those people who are developing the kind of assets for the engines and such like that, will then shift back to focusing on Star Citizen and Squadron 42. And some of that assets shifting may have already started, because a lot of what CIG has been focusing on in terms of the Squadron 42 updates has been scenes, cinematics, and other kind of more visual things. Before that, they were dealing with a lot of server issues. Because for those of you guys who don't know, Squadron 42 runs on the same technology that Star Citizen does. They're the same game. They're as part of the same development branch. The only difference between Squadron 42 and Star Citizen is that Squadron 42 has some aspects which are designed just for it. Scripted aspects, specific, cinematics and scenes, which you won't have in Star Citizen. But otherwise, the games are the same. You could boot them up on each other. They're literally the same game. So, one of the major issues with Star Citizen's development is that because they're the same game, a lot more aspects have been put towards Squadron 42, including the server tech. Because the way Squadron 42 works is that it builds, so the game will launch a virtual server on your machine that will run the game, just like you launch into a server now for the PU. And then you, the player, will launch into that server on your machine. So they needed to make sure they could develop things like server-side OCS and object OCS and server-side OCS, because you're running a server and a client on the same machine. It shouldn't be too bad, because other games do something similar as well. Like you can run a private servers that don't connect to the internet for a lot of games. The key is to make it the budget for like memory low, so you're not just like chunking people's memory, which may also be iCache for long-term persistence. So as a result, a lot of the server tech focus seems to have been on Squadron 42 rather than Star Citizen. Thank you, Devoted, for that sub, by the way. Swimming, yes. Thank you, Kalik, for that. There's actually going to be another lore video on the Idris. It'll be released tomorrow for those of you who are Patreons. Thank you so much for supporting us on Patreon. There is a Patreon. The video is already on Patreon for those of you guys. Go to my Patreon and look at the questions. See if anybody has asked any questions. I usually put up a thread. I try to put up a thread of like questions for Patreon subscribers. Okay, yeah, so the office hours question is actually from Old Man Zin, who asks, do we know how open world Squadron 42 will be, if at all? The way it was described, and this is just the way it was described to me is Squadron 42, or the way that the way I've seen it, is that Squadron 42 is semi-open world in the sense that you have a mission area, and that mission area may be covering an entire system, an entire planetary system. And you have objective markers that you can choose to take. So every mission will have a side mission. You go out on patrol, there will be side options like getting a distress call, kind of like the ECN alerts we have right now, or investigation missions. Think of like a lot of the little side missions we have right now, like investigating, finding black boxes, investigating down wrecks, all of those missions. Think of that; those will probably be what you see in Squadron 42. So you have an option to go rescue these people, or go investigate a distress call that is, or investigate a wreck, that kind of thing. And some of those will lead off into their own stories in the side missions, but some of them are mainly focused on, some of them are just that one-off kind of things. And the game won't tell you specifically what's the main mission, what's a side mission, except for the fact, or side quests, but except for the fact that you have a kind of a mission briefing of what you're supposed to be doing on an average basis. So. Yes, you'll be able to go to Star Citizen, same places that are in Squadron 42. You should be able to. The Odin system is in Star Citizen as well as Squadron 42. You mean assuming Chris Roberts won't want to implement shit like ray tracing and VR for Squadron 42 Chapter 2? That might happen there, Malachor, but that's also not something that's probably going to be as game-breaking, as it were, I think that probably a lot of, like, any work that goes into that will go into Star Citizen. And you could easily get that working in Star Citizen before you can get it working in Squadron 42, though I don't think it would be a priority. Sounds janky. The reason why I say it's semi-open world is because you got to understand that Star Citizen or Squadron 42 isn't an open world game. It wasn't designed as an open world game. But they opened it up into an open world game after they had planetary landings. And as the scope of Star Citizen increased because of the planetary landings, so did Squadron 42. So they had different ideas, different concepts they wanted to do, which is the reason why Squadron 42, which was supposed to release in 2016, is releasing in like 2022, because they completely revamped what they had. The story is still the same, and they still have similar side missions and that kind of thing. But they now have more details, like going to a planet and dealing with stuff, doing like puzzle missions, that kind of thing. X Series? What about the X Series, Konka? Is there a currency that you can earn to buy stuff in Squadron 42? No, because you're so in Squadron 42, the story of Squadron 42. We'll go over the lore real quickly for you guys. I'll try to stay away from any spoilers I can. This is just the context. The world of Star Citizen in 2945 is very different from where it is in 2950. In 2930s and 2940s, you start to see a resurgence of anti-military kind of sentiment among the population. The Empire is going broke. It does not have, the UEE does not have the money to fund all the programs it needs to keep people happy and healthy in the systems. So they've been returning to private mercenaries more and more. Private companies are doing more of the work that the government used to do, and corruption is rampant. However, there's one place in the UEE government which hasn't been touched, and that is the military spending. And the problem is that even though Congress, the UEE Senate, is responsible for the funding aspects of the government, the military is a separate branch that is not under the control of Congress. It's under the control of the Imperator. So a lot of the spending and other kind of things can be done by, like, the discretionary funding and that kind of stuff comes from the military itself. They're separate branches. They don't have checks and balances over each other. As a result, there's a lot of corruption in the military in terms of projects that don't want to be talked about, things that want to be mentioned. And that's being dragged to the surface in the late 2930s into the early 2940s. Which leads to a bill that was attempted to pass to essentially defund the military, and not in the sense of like banning the military, but stripping a lot of the funding away from the military and redistributing it to other areas of the UAE that needed help. And this has a lot of pushback from the military. In 2945, that changes, because right after the beginnings of hearings to pass a law, pass an act to essentially cut down the military spending dramatically, a Vandal attack occurs in Vega system. This attack in the Vega system sets everything back on its heels. Humanity is the Vega system is only saved by the quick actions of Admiral Bishop, who happened to be in the system or nearby the system with his fleet. They're able to beat back the Vandal attack, and they are, but millions of people die. Thousands, if not millions of people die in this attack. And it almost is, it's essentially a Pyrrhic victory for the UAE. In response, the UAE, Admiral Bishop goes to the Senate, and he makes a speech that says that asks for a declaration of war with the Vandal. The Vandal have always raided and attacked humanity in the UAE, but there's never been an official declaration of war. And just like any government, when you declare war, there's a lot of war powers which can be enacted towards the imperator, and in terms of monetary spending and in terms of being able to force companies to give the certain deals, lots of things like that. So the imperator takes this into advisement. He officially declares war on the Vandal after the planet that was attacked didn't have Senate representation. So when as a show of solidarity, they gave the planet that was attacked, I have to look up the planet's name, representation in the Senate. So the planet sent their first senator, who was sworn in as the first member of the planet to become senator from the planet. And they said, what is your, he asked if he could give his first vote, call for his first vote. And his first vote was to declare war on the Vandal. And this passed. It was brought to the Senate, to the imperator, and the imperator signed the act, which means that the UAE is now officially at war with the Vandal, which is a big deal. Again, so in the world of 2945, you're dealing with humanity which is stepping back towards militarization and is stretched absolutely to the breaking point. There wasn't enough money before this. Now there's still not enough money. And there is even more reliance on local militias and corporations and such to deal with the problems. So when you're the character, end up on the Stanton, in the Nix system, you start unraveling some truths about the goings-on of the Nix system, the reality of what's going on in the UAE behind the glory and valor of fighting the Vandal. That's a kind of a synopsis of the lore behind it. X4 Foundations? How do you breach a cargo ship door? Hit it with rail guns. Hey, Uncle Funk. Great videos, by the way, Uncle Funk. I can tell you, I know the answer, but it's not an official release, pilot. I don't want to piss people off who are like, spoilers! But you gotta hit it with a lot of LMG, like a full magazine of LMG fire to open up a door. Hey, Script Variable, how you doing? I'll DM you right now, hold on. There you go. I gave you your answer. Does it actually work, though? They've nerfed it really badly in the past. Like, made it almost unusable. Knowing the lore of Origin Jump works, do you think CIG would make a cargo variant of the 600i? Probably not. Origin is not really a cargo manufacturer. Even before they made ships, they made and when they made engines for luxury yachts. I don't think you would see much beyond exploration, maybe in combat for 600i. Luxury, exploration, and combat. And racing, obviously, they have racing. But like, I wouldn't see them a salvage company. I don't see them as a salvage company. I don't see them as a hauling company. I don't really see them as a, they're not that kind of stuff. Repair, refuel, that's not their style. The hauling ships would be Aegis Dynamics, Musashi Industrial Starflight Concern, or MISC, Argo Argonautics, Consolidated Outland, and Crusader. Those are the ones who I'd see as doing any kind of hauling stuff. And yes, I said Aegis because there's extensive mentions of military transports from the Mezzer era, which, most of the ships we have in game today, or most of the ships that exist in lore today, were made after the Mezzer era. Anvil, Origin, Consolidated Outland, Argo, well, to a degree Argo, Drake. These are all companies that were founded towards the end of, or at the end of the Mezzer, or after the Mezzers fell. And there's extensive lore about how a lot of companies that made ships before the Mezzers fell collapsed because they had so many ties in with the Mezzers that when the revolution happened, they were either killed or arrested for, child labor, child slavery, murder, that kind of stuff. There's really not a ton of it that's consolidated, Danto. You can't find a lot of the lore of Squadron 42, but you have to pick pieces out. Any of the lore posts talking about the Van Duel will probably have some pieces of there. But the easiest place for getting any of the early information, that'll usually give you good links to the full information, is the Star Citizen wiki, which is starcitizen.tools. I think it's stars.citizen.tools, I think, or something like that. Just look up Star Citizen wiki. It's the newer one would be better. You'll be able to tell which one's which. Yeah, who's Vega? Vega is the name of the system. Let me look up the Star Citizen attack on Vega. Attack on Vega 2. New Corvo was the city that was attacked. On Vega 2, it's a landing zone on Aramis. Aramis is the name of the planet. So Vega is the system, Aramis is the planet, which is the second planet in the system. There are 4 planets in the system. The Vega 1 is called Selene, I believe. No, it's the Vega 3 is Selene. Vega 1 is a dwarf planet, Vega 2 is Aramis, Vega 3 is Selene, and Vega 4 is a gas giant, I believe. Yeah, standard gas giant. There's 4 planets in the Vega system. Avengers are very old. Aegis almost collapsed. Aegis almost collapsed as a company during the Mezzer era, or after the fall of the Mezzers, because they were so tied in with the Mezzers. The fact that they didn't has to do with the fact that they were the only people making only manufacturers making like ship parts for many of the Navy ships. So if they collapsed, it would literally endanger humanity as a species. So the Senate was very kind to Aegis because of that. And Aegis has worked really hard to get rid of its ties, to distance itself from its ties from the Mezzers of the last 150 years. One of the reasons CIG even said this, one of the reasons why things look really flaky and weird and have weird streak marks everywhere is because they've been working on the condition passes for the game. I think eventually they're planning on having a new used and like damaged states for ships and equipment, but not all of that is in game yet. Right now there's just like the damaged, super damaged, and new state. I think we'll see the Zeus. I don't know if it'll be flyable, but I'm sure we'll see it in like a museum. Does Star Map bog your computer down full screen? It does, Joseph. The key is to not use Chrome. I found you have to use Firefox or, strangely enough, the Windows Explorer or Windows whatever it's called now, Edge. That it does fine on Edge. It's just not built for Chrome. Yeah. Yeah, the wiki will have, like, what I tend to do is I read a lot of the lore, but if I'm looking for information about something very specific that I kind of remember from lore, I'll pull up a wiki for it. And then on the wiki, they have citations. Then I go to the citations. And then I read those citations and and then kind of connect the dots through that way. There's a lot of good old fashioned guesswork in my lore stuff. Just because the dates are sometimes wrong. I've been talking with Ariel Neo, about this because he's been trying to do some lore stuff for the Spanish community, and he came to me and he's like, these dates don't make any sense. The lore between about the UNE just makes no sense. There's a bunch of contradictory discussions about like, oh, the UNE was formed here, and then like 100 years later, they're mentioning the recently formed UNE. It's like 100 years later? Are you kidding me? So there's some issues with the early lore where they screwed up a time. I think they just misplaced a digit in one of the timelines. They've just been going off of that forever, and they need to go back and fix it. The star map. Don't use Chrome for the star map, because the star map is, for some reason, I've never had it work well on Chrome, at period, let alone full screen. But star map should work in Edge or Firefox. All the information will be in game eventually. There, Detective. They're actually kind of making their own shorthand wiki called the Arc. And that Arc, well, they're calling it the Galactopedia, and where the Galactopedia is on the Arc, which is in game. But the Galactopedia will be in game. It's just not in there yet. They're still working on UI. They're still trying to make the UI function for gameplay purposes, let alone lore. Once that's done, I'm sure there'll be a Galactopedia app on your mobile glass that you can look up all the lore for. The wiki is just useful for consolidating information together for all of the stories that have been told on the website. Any word when they're swapping out the star map? That's part of the UI redesign for like the mobile glass and stuff like that. The building blocks. So soon, they're still working on the building blocks, getting them finalized. Yeah, you also got to remember, there's another thing to remember is that a lot of the combat ships we have in the verse right now, the Hornets, the Well, the Hornet's a little different. The Gladiuses, the Titans, the Sabers, well, not really the Sabers, the Retaliators, a lot of those combat ships are actually surplus military stuff that's been downgraded to civilian. Anvil is weird because they make civilian and military versions at the same time. Their military versions are much more upgraded, and then they have separate facilities producing the civilian versions, which is actually what makes the Carrack unique, because the Carrack was introduced as a military ship, super secret. Watch the video. I put a video out 2 weeks ago about it, so the lore about it. But it was super secret development. It just kind of showed up in a Navy shipyard, and people realized it was an exploration ship. And almost immediately after it started functioning, it started like doing missions. So the civilian market was like, I want it, I want it, I want it, I want it, I want it. And so Anvil, when their first production run was officially over with, their first contract was up with the UEE. They asked permission from the UEE to produce a civilian version of the Carrack, because they had done that with the Hornet and several other ships in the past as well. So they were expecting a yes, because they initially wanted to do that with the Hornet, and it was a gamble, and the UEE was just like, we need more. This is a good ship. We need more of them because we can't defend ourselves. Give them to the malicious. As long as they're downgraded. And so, but to Anvil's surprise, the UAE said no. So the Carrack remained military and top secret for almost 100 years after its launch. It took 100 years after its launch for it to finally to be made into a civilian version. So that's the big deal. Like, the civilian versions of the Carrack were only built in the last 20 years. February 21st is Carrack Day. Yep. Oh, here. It doesn't count, but I'll give you access anyways. Hold on. Sorry, I gotta find the code. Just, it's a problem about packing. All right. Okay, this is just for you, Red Lair. Everyone look away from the camera except for Red Lair. This is just for Red Lair. This is the code. Okay, this is the code. Just go into your to the website robertspriceindustries.com/this code, and you'll get access to the Squadron 42 beta. I swear. This is not a troll. Whatever you say, this is not a troll. And everyone else look away except for Red Lair. Okay, you promise? You promise? Okay, here. That's the code. There we go. Okay, so that guy Adam asks, question, do you think that the Moby-Glass will have a scanning tool, like you scan an object and maybe they pull it up on a Galactipedia? Possibly. I think you're probably less likely to have a scanning tool and more likely to have a scanning attachment to your multi-tool. So something that'll attach to the multi-tool, which will act as a high-powered scanner, and then possibly put the information into your Moby-Glass. Just because they want to use the multi-tool as much as possible, I could see an attachment to the multi-tool to the multi-tool where it adds like a little screen to the front, so you kind of have like that alien style tracker on it, so you can like do motion trackers, but it can also like do scanning or something like that. Something like that would probably work. I'd love the idea of having those scanners. What do you think of the online history textbook for Star Citizen? It'd be great. The CIG should write it and like publish it. Not like just write it up haphazardly. I love the idea. I think they could do it through like digital publishing. What's my favorite fun, weird lore story? The story of the Blue Man is probably the weirdest one. Though I do like some of the other mysteries I've been discovering. The Blue Man story is interesting. There's a creature that is seen only in the Hades system, which is like a transparent humanoid-esque, vague humanoid-esque figure with blue veins, semi-transparent, bright blue veins, which it just appears on ships passing through the Hades system, and sometimes it just appears on the planets of what it says the Hades system, but only in the Hades system. And every species that we know of has seen and has a different name for the Blue Man. It is a cryptid in Star Citizen, which is baller. SCP time, exactly. Well, the Hadesians all died out. And the thing is that the way it's been described, there's no way it's the Hadesians, because the Hadesians did not look like that. The Hadesians had this kind of like bulbous, like thorax-like body with like 6 to 8 legs, depending on, you know, which Hadesian was around, with a torso, like a humanist-esque torso with arms and a head. So they had like a humanoid torso with arms and a head, and then their legs was just on like a thorax, like a ball. They called it like a ball with legs. So, you think they'll have cryptozoology in the game? I think there'll be a couple of cryptids that'll exist in the Star Citizen universe, only because they'll probably be either for mission givers or for players to try to investigate. And all that a cryptid is, for those of you guys who don't know what cryptozoology is, it's the study of unknown or mythological creatures. Some examples of cryptozoology in the wild, like in reality, is like the mountain gorilla, which was originally thought to be a myth, which was discovered in the turn of the 20th century to be true. Gigantic squid, I think is what it's called. I can't remember the name specifically. The huge squids, the kraken, essentially. The kraken exists. It doesn't sink ships, but I think that's its technical name now. The kraken is an actual actual beast, and we've had bits and pieces of evidence for a long time, but now in the last 60 to 70 years, we've been able to go deeper into the oceans, and we've been able to get a lot more evidence supporting that they exist. Colossal squid, thank you. The giant squid, thank you, giant squid. Yeah, Shady Face. The Hadesians look something like the Drider from Dungeons and Dragons. Is there any lore behind the grotesque mutilated flesh / alien parasite helmet? It's from a movie. The parasite helmet's from a movie series that's similar to like Aliens or I think it's the closest thing is like The Thing. That movie. Yeah, those are the Mothman, Mongolian Death Ward, and Sasquatch and Bigfoot. Those are more examples of cryptids which we don't have a ton of evidence supporting them, but they're constantly reported. But like colossal squid, gigantic squid, what does it say? The mountain gorilla. Nessie is another good example of that. Coelacanth is another good one. Megamouth shark. Yeah. Don't get me started on the History Channel. Don't get me started on the History Channel. We're trying to spread the love, by the way, guys. You got a chance to. Was thinking of doing a cinematic with that Parasite helmet. There is a movie about it. Look, you can look up the details behind it. Maybe Crypto Creature will become my guard dog or therapy pet. Maybe. I can't wait to cut open one of those bear things and sleep in it. Ooh. Oh, that species is extinct there, that guy, Adam. The human spiders, the Hadesians, they are extinct. They've been extinct for, like, millions of years. They nuked themselves out of existence. Actually, to be fair, we don't know how they died. They just destroyed their cities and blew up one of their planets. Yeah, I don't think you're going to be able to breach doors in armistice zones, unfortunately. Eventually, the armistice zones will go away, but currently, it's really difficult to breach doors in armistice zones. Well, I mean, the History Channel was never really about history. Quentin Reviews is a YouTuber that I follow pretty closely. And he does some really good like kind of videos on the History Channel. And his observations are pretty correct, which is that History Channel is great for, back in the day, it was great for the kind of a starter version of history. If you're interested in history, you'll find some interesting facts about that. And there's a lot of like bits of history the History Channel would do. So it had some interesting documentaries which were covering very basic aspects of history. So like say if you are really interested in American history, but you don't know much about like Russian history, they did a series called Russia, Land of the Tsars, which I think was an A&E series as well, where they put together like documentaries about the history of the Tsars. It's very basic information, like something that you'd learn in like a Russian history class or in a world history class possibly. And it's very fascinating, but it's not very in-depth. It's not like a detailed, political analysis of the Tsars and their times in Russia. You can get better documentaries about it, and you can find more information about it with interesting. But it's a good starter stuff. That's generally how when History Channel was at its best, that's generally how it functioned. But they needed to make money. They weren't making enough money. Yeah, Frog Stories here, history. Yeah, there's a lot of decent World War II documentaries. There's a little bit too much Hitler worship in the History Channel. One of the sad misnomers that most people, like common people, make is that like the Nazis were bad, but their technology was good. In reality, their technology was hot ass garbage. It's just they happened to make really tough tanks. And some technology which was interesting, experimental, but it didn't win them the war because they did the wrong thing, which was try to develop technology that was expensive and clunky and bulky and gulping fuel. It's the equivalent of like mechs are really fucking cool. Like, they are really fucking cool, and I love mechs in video games and in stories and that kind of stuff. Mechs are my shit, but they would never exist in reality. Because mechs in reality are huge targets. Anyone who has even, like, blinked at military tactics or has been in the military knows the last thing you want to do is have a giant fucking flag on you saying you're here. And mechs, even small ones, are like 3 times the size of a human being. Chomping through the jungles in that thing is going to make a lot of noise. So you have to have up armor as crazy in order to survive with that. So even if it's possible to build a freestanding bipedal robot like that you control, it wouldn't be worth the cost. It's better to build more tanks because today tanks aren't getting bigger, they're getting smaller. So that's the equivalent. Like, they were building mechs in the equivalent of mechs in World War II, which were cool and they could survive, but the Allies could build 50 tanks for their one. You know, the V2 was a technological leap, but it did jack shit in terms of actual combat. It was just basically a terrorist weapon. That's why they called them terror weapons. Didn't stop the Allied advance. The MiG fighter jets were great, or not MiG soldiers. The German fighter jets were great, but for the production of those jets, they could have built more traditional prop planes and kept them in the war better. There's a lot of things that went wrong. The Nazis were not smart people. They were dumb as fuck. And scientists basically conned the shit out of them for pet science projects. Legitimate story, legitimate quote from Wernher von Braun, who said, I keep aiming for the stars. I aim for the stars, but I keep hitting London. Legitimate quote from Wernher von Braun. He only used the Nazis for technology. He's also a horrible human being who used slave labor and there's lots of problems with Wernher von Braun. He is not a clean figure in history. But the problem about that kind of story is that that's not the History Channel. It's not dramatic enough for a History Channel. So it's like the secret, not Axis weapons, which could have won World War II. You know, and that was part of that problem. They would step down that line towards this kind of step down the line to Crazy Town, and then they just took that train and took it all the way. Rather than, you know, talking about that kind of stuff. Yes, KFT, Talon is going to be released in 1 hour. We don't know. Sorry. We're going to talk, that's kind of a little bit of off topic, but... Everything's 1 hour from now, KFT, don't you know that? Squadron 42 beta is coming out in 1 hour. Star Citizen's releasing to full release in 1 hour. Server meshing is in 1 hour. iCache is in 1 hour. Your hopes and dreams are in 1 hour. Chris Roberts is 1 hour from your house. I'm staying out of the Pico debates, guys. Star Runner in 1 hour, yes. Yes, the Stoic Whale. The Nazis were also on drugs. Lots of meth. Lots of meth. Mantis Strip, man. Yeah, Mantis Strip are nuts. See, if you want it, like, in my opinion, I would love to see something like the Mantis Shrimp in Star Citizen that's like an alien, because the Mantis Shrimp is the closest thing you're going to get to a deadly alien. Zillus, no. I mean, Star Citizen isn't really going for full realism. It's going for stylized realism, like most sci-fi. The universe of Star Citizen is a Kardashev 1, maybe Kardashev 2 civilization, which is Kardashev 1 is planet, Kardashev 2 is star. But probably Kardashev between like a 1.8. It's a Kardashev civilization, a Kardashev 1.8 scale that discovered wormholes. So they never had to absorb the energy of their star because wormholes existed for them to travel between them. I do think that the Tavaran, not the Tavaran, I'm sorry, the Xi'an are probably a Kardashev 2 scale civilization. Because they build, their entire planets are dedicated to one aspect of their life. Combat, building, habitation. They have full worlds which are dedicated to one task. So I wouldn't be surprised if there were Dyson spheres inside the Xi'an territory that we don't know of. Though, they're kind of, humanity is sort of getting into Kardashev 2 because they're trying to build a planet, which I feel is likely going to be something like a Dyson sphere. Hey, Chief Gully, how you doing, buddy? Oh, Kardashev. So Kardashev scale civilizations is a thought experiment done by, I think, a physicist. I think he might be a Russian physicist. I don't know. His name is Kardashev, which essentially states that each civilization has different scales upon which. So the main question? Let's break this down. How, if we are intelligent species on our planet, right? Humans, a sentient species on planet Earth. Now, if we're going out into the stars to look for other species, how can we tell what's intelligent and what's not? So Kardashev essentially said, through a thought experiment, he said, well, one of the things that makes us different from animals, other than just our sentience, is our energy production. We produce energy through various means, either by harnessing animal power or fossilized plants or like condensed, like old plant energy, the sun. We harvest energy and use it. And you can measure that energy in terms of units, special units. So in his theory, he created a scale of civilizations. And people like Freeman Dyson agreed with this and kind of elaborated on it. I don't know who came first, but they both, Dyson Freeman, I think, I can't remember his name. His name's Dyson too. They tended to work off of each other's kind of notes a little bit. And the idea was that in Kardashev's mind, and I'm probably mispronouncing his name because I do that all the time. You had 0, which is no collection of energy. 1, which was being able to harness the potential energy of your planet. So all of the potential energy of your planet is harvestable. 2 was being able to harvest the potential energy of a sun, of a star. 3 would be the harvesting the potential energy of a galaxy or of multiple stars or a galaxy. And 4 was galaxies plural. Multiple galaxies being able to harvest the potential energy of all of them. So in this thought experiment, the idea was that, okay, so if energy usage is the main way that we can determine civilizations, we need to look for energy spikes. Evidence that energy is being used by other civilizations. That's where Freeman Dyson came up with the ideas of things like Dyson swarms and Dyson spheres, which is, okay, if other sentient creatures were around the universe trying to use energy, the most likely source of energy would be from their sun, from their stars, so they would have to find some way of pulling it out. And so he came up with the idea of giant arrays of solar panels, essentially, that would be circling close to the sun or in orbit around the system that would collect the energy. Millions, billions of satellites that were collecting energy specifically to keep this growing civilization powered, or to build a shell around their sun specifically to collect energy and live on that shell. Because stars are huge in terms of their surface, so you could, if you build a shell around it, you could harness the sun's energy directly. And so when we're looking for other stars, we're looking for evidence of Dyson swarms and Dyson spheres, essentially stars which seem to just dim suddenly and disappear, or have very dimming effects while as if like a swarm of things are passing in front of it. Because in theory, that may mean that that star is being habited, that there is a civilization which is collecting the energy from its star. So, multiverse, yeah. So, is there characters in Star Citizen like that? Like what? Like what, Detective Aaron? Is if there's are good trading partners or just species that will stab us in the back. And Prophet is right. Chief Golly is right. The Xi'an they will likely stab you in the back. But the Xi'an will never actually stab you in the back. They're good trading partners. But you always have to be wary when you're dealing with them. Because the Xi'an never say what they feel. They're always kind of shifty and shaky. You said something like, is there characters in Star Citizen like that? And I don't know what you were referencing. It would take an entire solar system worth of materials to build one? Possibly more, yeah. The Banu are honest. They're not shifty, they're honest. Because their entire civilization is based off of trust. Now, there are criminals in Banu, obviously, and they will do anything they can to get an advantage. But once you get in the good graces of a Banu, they will fucking ride or die. They are ride or die when it comes to that. They're super friendly, but they'll sell their own kids for money. They do sell their own kids for money. I'm glad you're back to DFX. I'm sorry everything's been going crazy for you. You think we'll ever be able to play as a Banu, Xi'an, or hell, maybe even Tavaran? So here's my theory in terms of expansions beyond Star Citizen. So the Star Citizen has to be out first. But I think the first major, the only paid expansions that CIG will likely ever do in terms of required DLC would be something around playing as another species. And I think this is just the way I logically, the way CIG works and the way that I can see it done and the way I would do it if I was in CIG's position would be, if I was to do that route, I would be Tavaran first. I would do an expansion pack, possibly like a season pass sort of thing, where you can pay like $80 and get all the future passes, expansion packs. But the first expansion pack would be Tavaran. And I would release the Tavaran first because the Tavaran do not have you don't have to make anything special for a Tavaran character because Tavaran are part of the UEE. And if you're not a part of Tavaran that's part of the UEE, that's fine. Their humans are not part of the UEE as well. So the Tavaran, you don't have to change anything. You don't have to change like ships because they should be able to fly human ships. They should be able to fit into human clothing, or you'll have to kind of change things around a little bit. But once you make that model, the models exist. It's a lot easier to modify the Tavaran in lore and in game to being playable characters than it would be the Banu or the Xi'an. I don't think you'll ever be able to play as the Vanduul. The Vanduul are the big bads of the universe. I don't think you'll ever be able to do that. But I think eventually the CIG will probably do, in order, Tavaran, Banu, and Xi'an. And because the Xi'an would be last because they're the most complicated because they've got so many fucking secrets that CIG doesn't want to reveal, either because they know what the secrets are or they want to make up some more. They want to keep them secretive because they're kind of they're not always the good guys, if you know what I mean. Glad to hear that, DFX, man. They could be the oldest race. We don't know 2.5 inches. You're right. Thank you for that $5 super chat there, Evolve. Hey, Paul, it's good to see that you have super chat up. Hope things are going well. Obligatory question. What are your thoughts on tabletop RPGs? Well, Evolve Harder, I actually run a tabletop RPG on Saturday mornings called The Spice Must Roll. It's used a separate YouTube channel. But I love tabletop RPGs. I've been playing them since I was a kid. I've DM'd 2 full seasons of tabletop broadcasted live on Twitch and put it up on YouTube. called The Spice Must Roll. One is set in the Expanse universe with the official Expanse RPG, and the other one is the Star Trek Adventures RPG in the Star Trek universe. The Expanse one's called Expanse Actium, and the Star Trek one is called Star Trek Vasquez. So, if you are interested in tabletop RPGs, we do tabletop RPGs at the pub. In fact, some of the people you've seen before are part of it. Mythmatic, Meyer, Buster the Destroyer, HP Braincase, Dr. Drones, Darj, Jake Acapella, Papa Dolvac, Atomic Zero. All of these folks are part of the cast and crew. So check them out. We've got a lot of backlog there for you to watch. And episode 0 and 1 of our next tabletop RPG, which is Star Trek's Edge of the Empire, or Star Wars Edge of the Empire, which was Fantasy Flight Games RPG series, is happening this Saturday. So we're going to be starting around like 9:30 my time, so it's like 10:30 Eastern, like 7:30, 8 in the morning for you guys in the Pacific. And we'll be doing episode 0, then we'll roll into a live broadcast of episode 1. Episode 0 is pre-recorded, so we had some technical issues last time, so I tried to fix that one. Was the Vanduul ever friendly, or were they always antagonists? They've always been the antagonists, as far as we know. Cyberpunk Red? Eventually. Probably not around Cyberpunk's release. But we'll see. The plan is that after the Star Wars RPG, I'm going to be doing a non-IP or tabletop, which is Stars Without Number. But it's going to be themed. We're going to do a mecha anime-esque themed Stars Without Number game. So it'll be a crew of miscreants with mechs doing mercenary work. Yeah, do other systems, dude. There's so many good systems out there. If you like sci-fi, Star Wars, the Edge of the Empire, Fantasy Flight games, once you figure it out, which is super easy to figure out, like it probably takes about a week or so of like really wrapping your head around it. It's just super simple and really easy to deal with. It's all about opposed rolls, so as a GM, you don't have to make up difficulties, difficulty points or anything. You just roll, and whoever gets the win, the players either do what they did because they won, or they lose and they don't get to do that. It's really fun. But. Nice there, Aaron. Yeah, they make some good stories, yeah. Will Vanduul be the big bads of the guy, or the guys fighting the Xi'an? The guys fighting the Xi'an are probably going to be more nebulous bad, but we'll see. So I've heard that the Vanduul are running from a threat greater than themselves. Do we have any clue if this is real? Mostly rumors, but it's based off the fact that the Vanduul are based off of the actual Vandals and Goths from ancient Rome. And the reason why that rumor came about is because the Vandals and the Goths, when they invaded Rome, weren't actually invading Rome. They were pushed from their lands and forced to invade Rome because they were pushed out by a group called the Huns, who eventually showed up and fought the Romans. And they eventually settled in a place that we now call Hungary, which is where that name comes from. But they were steppe people that possibly even existed all the way back to the reason why the Great Wall was built. They were pushed out by the Han dynasty, and they started a cascade of them pushing more tribes in front of them, and then eventually led to the Roman Empire. It's interesting facts, though. So based off that theory, and because the UEE is heavily based off of the fall of Rome, like the history behind it is, that the Vandals are not the actual threat. They are just a symptom of the threat that's coming after the Vandal. Since the Vandal are a nomadic species, and their hunting grounds may have been eliminated by another species. That's a theory, which would be a good storytelling technique, but we don't know. Exactly, Triple U. The FFG's success, failure, and advantage, disadvantage makes for really good stories. It's a yes and. It's good improv. It makes for good improv bonuses. Your Honda Accord's called the Aurora, my friend. Thank you, Detective, for hanging out, man. Why did the Vandal deal with the Banu? Because the Vandal aren't all the same. And the Banu, we don't know exactly why, but it's likely because my theory is that the Banu are very convincing. And not all the Vandal necessarily agree on exterminatus, just purging everything. There are different tribes that believe in different things, so... No, it doesn't have automatic landing gear, no. Brother, get the flamer! The heavy flamer! Happened to the Kilrathi, yeah. I've also heard the Vandal skin is basically heavy armor. Well, their skin is armor. Their skin is armored. It seems like they based the Vandal heavily off of nautical creatures. The coelacanth and like the anglerfish. They're very much, they've got like bioluminescence. The way that their faces and their teeth are pointed, it seems more like they're like more of like fish. So the Vandal are fish people, the Tavaran are chicken people, or bird people, and the Xi'an are turtles. Though I'm gonna come out in defense of the Xi'an. They are not Ninja Turtles. They are reptilian. The problem is that you take a reptilian race, any reptilian race, and the reference to Ninja Turtles is going to always be there. Especially if you're making them with kind of like more heavier bodies. Yeah, that's right, Odinson. Too many sci-fi stories treat a planet/alien species as a singular unit. The Krithak might be, but the Krithak are also the enemies of the Xi'an, so. Yeah, they're kind of like amphibians, but they're more based off of lizards. If you look at them, they've some of the concept art has removed like the shell. So I have a feeling that like the shell that's on the back of some of the Xi'an that you see is not actually a shell, but is their equivalent of an air pack or a backpack. It's part of it's like an armor set that they wear, which would make sense if they're kind of like amphibians. They used to carry their armor with them. Now they have to, actually take it off and put it on, take it off. A lot of the newer concept art makes them look more like dinosaurs almost. Have kind of like a kind of lizard-esque dinosaurs. Human troll. I'm going to stay out of the Pico debate. I think, I will say that I think a lot of people have, A lot of people have a good. I've heard some good theories about the Pico, why people are embracing the Pico. Because first of all, my theory about the Pico is that the reason why people love Pico is because they like plushy things. And Pico is gender neutral. There's no like it's okay to like cute things like Pico, whether you're a man or a woman, especially in video games, or male or masculine or feminine. Whereas Star Kitten is overtly referencing Hello Kitty, which is much more feminine in its kind of, presentation. And because it's more feminine and the Star Citizen community is more masculine in terms of its identity, there was a lot of pushback because people were like, I don't want girly things, which is kind of ridiculous. I love Star Kitten. I love the idea of Star Kitten because it brings out the universe. But I think that's the difference. And I think that's one of the reasons why Pico is so much more embraced, is because it's a lot more neutral. But I also think that people like Pico because it's a plushie rather than just like a mascot. If you had Star Kitten as a plushie when you introduced it, more people would probably have been on board with it rather than just like a stencil on the side of a ship. You know what CIG would do? If CIG, if you're listening, if you really, really want to get the weebs and the nerds to really enjoy Star Citizen, give them a waifu that they can stencil on the side of their ship. And I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but I'm sure Consolidated Outland would be the perfect company to come out with a ship waifu. There we go. Star Kitten Inferno would be fucking badass. Think of that them bits, man. And before anyone goes on about my immersion, look up the Japanese Defense Force and tell me about my immersion. What the JDF puts on their Apache helicopters and their F4s? No, F-16s? I can't remember. They're jets. In the Wii Wars of 2369. If they don't put it Gundams, I'm fighting. I mean, I still think that Sean Tracy is still involved in this game. I don't think he's going to leave the game development until there is a mech in Star Citizen. Japan is a macho place. They could. But see, that's the thing, Chief Gully. You need to have that. No, that's it. I take back C, and I pull back my offer from Consolidated Outlands. Microtech, make a ship waifu. Make a ship system that has an animated avatar of a waifu that replaces the bitching Betty of any ship with a waifu. Exactly. So on ships that don't have the 3D hologlobes, you would have an option on one of the screens, you could put it to just an animated version of your of the ship assistant, and then you could have it like kind of you can be like quantum drive charging. When you hit that, it could pop up as the in the holo globe as that and going quantum drive charging. It could be, but Microtech is the one that makes all of the technology based stuff, and they build and develop a lot of holo technologies at Microtech. So that's why it would be very rare. And they're all freaking nerds. So those are the kind of people who would build virtual waifus. Ninetales waifu, yes. Yeah, basically. That in the CIG B-roll, the holographic lady at Microtech has a dress while your live version is a suit. Yeah, I think I don't know, they're either working on cloth physics or something else. There's some issue that the reason why they haven't brought in dresses, because dresses are very, very common in most of the CIG cinematics, so. Exactly there, TechNet. Do you think there will be in manufacturing items like Astropub, Brew you could distribute? Probably. CIG has talked about the idea of taking like recipes and making things out of them and selling them. So I wouldn't be surprised if you could like have brewing as a side job if you really wanted to. I don't think it's going to be very complicated. I don't expect it to be like brewing to be an actual like buying a doing all the steps of brew. It'll probably be like a machine-o-matic, a thing-o-matic, a thingamajigger that does all of the things you need to, that like a plant reprocessing facility, which will pop out any number of plant-based materials that you want to make. They'll do a little bit of hand wavium for that, but I could see that as terms of like an advantage for people who build farms on like outpost and farms and stuff like that. If Kruger made another ship, it'd probably be a starting ship or a small fighter. That's what they're good at. Exactly, yeah, like the Skyrim Blacksmith, or like a lot of the space survival games where you can build like a tool bench and make a bunch of tools, that kind of thing. Are they still going to go with the production node thing, or did they kibosh that? I think they still plan on doing that, but I also don't think, I think that's going to be for large production. Because they also talked about smaller crafting. Like being able to build your own bullets. Because bullets will be a thing in Star Citizen, guys. Like different ammunition types. So, coming to bear with an armor-piercing bullet versus a hollow point versus a tracer, or different types of tracers and incendiary bullets. They'll probably come up with some exotic bullets like electric bullets. Other things like that. As well as different types, I'm assuming different types of like plasma or laser rounds as well. Is Crusader going to have any other class of fighters, or just stay with the heavy ones? We don't know. I would probably assume no. I'd probably assume that Crusader's probably not going to be super heavy into fighters. Their background is more into transport and trade. Their combat forays are like the biggest combat foray before the Ares is the Starlifter. Likely not. They're probably more likely to go into something like Connie-sized, and something more along the lines of trade or salvage or transport or something. I don't think CNOU is going to come out with anything soon, but soonish. Wait, isn't MISC a Japanese company? Sort of. MISC is out of Saisei. It was founded by a Japanese founder, but it's not a Japanese company. It's a Saisei company, which is in the starts with the C, and I'm blanking on it. Lore guy doesn't know his lore. Centauri system. I'd settle for more horror elements. Let me get stuck on a planet and haunted a la Alien. Yeah, that's something that they're planning on doing at some point. Lost civilizations, whispers from space, from far reach, each differs. Yeah, you're gonna have stuff like that. There's going to be dangers in wrecks that you see on planets that you visit. It's just not available quite yet. As CIG talked about us being able to locate lost systems. Yes and no. They've talked about they'll probably be able to do it. There's only one lost system in lore. I don't remember the name of it though. I'd imagine that like laser ammo would probably be like a ammunition that's more stunning rounds that's designed to knock out somebody. Normal lethal rounds and like supercharged rounds, you know. So like essentially different types of battery packs that can do different things. That would be my guess if they did that. Yeah, there was one system that had its wormhole collapse, but I don't remember the name of it. Well, Pirate Pete. Pirate Pete says, it'd be nice if you stop balancing in a friggin' alpha. Beta is where you balance, for fuck's sake. They're going to have to balance even during beta and beyond. Star Citizen's in an odd position. Star Citizen is both in a state of release and development, because CIG has said, and through their actions, have released the game as like an early access title. Each release is a release. So they try to do their best to make it as playable as possible. But they don't want to spend so much time trying to balance and get everything perfect. Because they know that a lot of those is going to get removed or get destroyed when they add more things. The problem is that CIG is also going to be adding new things well beyond beta and release. CIG will constantly be adding new ships, weapons, equipment. That's how they're going to make money, is in some cases selling some of this stuff, in other cases just adding more content as they develop, because they want to keep producing things. So the balance is going to constantly be in flux. They're always going to have to be balanced. There's never going to be a spot where we're done adding damage types. They might add 400 more damage types down the road. I don't know. So CIG is going to be experimenting as they go. So they kind of still have to do some balancing in alpha, though it's less effective because they don't have all of the base systems in yet. But all it takes is adding a new system into the game, during beta or afterwards, to screw up that balance again. So it gives them practice. It's much balancing right now is as much part of development as everything else, because they're learning how to balance properly. How many more iterations do you think flight model will receive? Oh, yeah, I mean, Chief goes right, there's probably been hundreds, if not thousands, of iterations that never made it to the light of day because they did it internally. There'll probably be much more. I don't think CIG is going to, and again, one of the things that a lot of people make the mistake of is they think that what they currently did is they changed the flight model. They didn't change the flight model. They changed the flight characteristics. And flight characteristics will consistently change as they evolve. But the key is for them to find a good base starting zone that they don't go back and completely rework from the beginning. I think they've changed the flight model once from ground up. It's expensive, and I don't think they want to do that. That's kind of like how they calculate things, all kind of stuff. But I wouldn't say, like, flight characteristics, they'll do it every patch. They'll change it all the time. Flight model, not again. Probably maybe once again in the future. Yes, but the flight model already calculated all those things. It just didn't change the characteristics of the ships. They've talked about things like aerodynamics being in the flight model, wind being in the flight model. That stuff's been in there for forever. It just wasn't affecting the ships. They've plugged in a lot of those effects with the ships, plus modeling it with the other things like that. The fundamental calculations of the flight model didn't change. It's the characteristics of ships, and they'll change again when they add flaps and control surfaces to ships. So nice, congratulations there, Alpha Dialio. I'm glad your game's working now. No, they're not going to rebuild it from the ground up, but they'll add things like, I'm sure they'll tweak it around so that different planetary bodies and gravity will have more of an effect on ships. Dibley, one of the things that's important to remember, Dibley says, I'm happier with the changes this year as opposed to attempts last year, my clueless non-dev opinion. In the end of the day, we're players. We play the game. If it doesn't feel right, if it feels like garbage, or it feels bad, or it's overly complicated, or whatever, you don't have to be a developer to know that. If you can't fly a ship, or if it's unintuitive to fly a ship, and you fuck up and explode, and you're angry, that means CIG fucked up somewhere. You don't have to be a 15-year veteran game developer to know you fucked up when something like that happens. So that's always important to remember, us as fans, is that we have a right to have opinions, and even if those opinions are just our opinions, the key is that making sure that you can articulate those opinions well, and don't do so in a way that's just like overly insulting. I'm not saying you were, Dibley. I'm just saying like that's the key for you don't have to be a developer expert to be able to say, hey, this is bad. Pirate Pete, it's also important to remember that the systems are likely going to speed up over time. They're building out an entire team just to do the systems, to do the planetary systems. They've finished the tools for the planetary systems, and they've been building these things from scratch. So they built like the first 4 planets of the Pyro system in like a month. And most systems are not Stanton. Stanton is unique because Stanton has 4 landing zones. Most systems have 1. The special systems that have multiple landing zones are few and far between, and most of them have a maximum 2. Like, for instance, Vega has 2 landing zones from 2 planets out of 4. I just said the name, and Centauri. Centauri has 2 landing zones out of like 7 or 8 planets. So you have to balance those kind of things out. The development of systems is going to take time, but they also have finished, just kind of like the ship pipeline, they've finished the tools. So that's going to speed up over time as well. And it has. Oh, that's more than just one. Ridlin, there's a lot of different AI screw-ups. Lots. Just basically every time humanity has built an AI, it goes haywire. Which is one of the reasons why they don't do synthetic AI or like super smart AI in the Star Citizen universe. Hey, they're letting us pay for them to have an opinion. We're the QA, exactly. I think Yogi and the flight experience team's visibility in ISC, and even more so, the replies on Spectrum community discussions has helped immensely. I believe so. And I also believe that there's at least a couple of people who are very dedicated, who play Star Citizen on the development team, who are dedicated to getting the game feeling right. Earth is got 3, plus Mars has 1. Terra has 2 or 3, and I think there's one other one on the Terra system. But like of 100 systems, we're talking 5 systems that are the size of Stanton. And we're also talking about Stanton taking like 6 years to build out because a lot of the technology behind Stanton wasn't finished yet. Well, the team who's making Pirate Pete, the team who's making Oceans and Grass are not the team who work on the combat stuff. The combat people are different people, a different branch of developers. They have these teams set out, and when those people who are making the stuff pretty are working, they can be in various different stages compared to everybody else. One of the things that's important to remember is that movies and games and television shows are not made in order. They're not built in a regimented, normal fashion. For instance, movies are often filmed wherever they can get licensing to film. So if they have a limited time and budget, some movies may film, if they have like a locations that they're shooting at, they'll go to those locations first, even if those locations are at the middle or the end of the movie, and then go back to like studios, to film studios there, and then they piece the movie together based off of those experiences, which is why some movies are really bad because the acting is all over the place or the budget is all over the place. So they like some scenes look really well done and other ones aren't because they blew all the budget up front. Video games are the same way. Some video games are built with an engine. They build an engine entirely from scratch first, and then they build a game off of it. Some of them take an off-the-shelf engine and modify it as they see fit. Some of them will focus on other aspects rather than others, like some aspects rather than others, depending on which game is. Each game is built uniquely. You can't just copy pasta game code from one game to another. There's even if they're in the same engine, they require a lot of work and a lot of development. So if somebody who's building, as a result, you can have a team that's building the visuals, and that gets done a lot faster than, say, the combat team, because the combat team is waiting on a lot of back-end support to make the combat feel better, because it's hard to tell if the fact that I'm not hitting this ship is because combat sucks, because my gun sucks, or because, like, lag is causing it to happen. You know, the fact that my ship is blowing up 5 seconds faster than it should could be an error in the code because of bugs, because of a weapon, or it could be because the servers are fucking up. However, the grass blowing properly doesn't take nearly as much effort or rely on that much of like other stuff. So that team might progress much faster than the teams that are building the game. Yeah, I'm getting through a lot of this stuff. I'm hearing you talking about balance, then you're talking about how they're not working on combat, and then they're working on. It sounds like you're critiquing that CIG is as a development team is fucking up, and they're not prioritizing things properly, and they should be prioritizing things properly. Is that what your argument is? Because that's what it seems like. And what I'm trying to say is, you're looking at the pieces rather than the whole. And it's easier to look at the pieces and go, they fucked up, without looking through the whole thing. I don't have the full story either, so I don't know how much of that is true or not. But it's important to recognize that there's a lot of other factors at play. Has EG talked much about tourism, especially in lore-heavy spots? They haven't, but they have mentioned that they want to do things like museums and tourist areas and places where you'd go specifically to just like to visit, as it were. And I'm sure that would tie in with like transport and stuff like that. Yeah, the ruins on Terra, there's a monument on Mars to the first colonists on Mars who died, the Mars incident. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a memorial on Vega for the Vega invasion of Vega. I know there's a memorial on Locke for the Greys who fought in the First Tavaran War. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some sort of Tavaran memorial on Jalan, those kind of things. Will there be more passenger transports like the Starliner in the future? We don't know. The Starliner is probably one of the worst selling ships in CIG for Star Citizen. So possibly not. Nice. Good job there, Chief Gully. I'm still not comfortable with Linux, so I wouldn't do that. But personally, I personally wouldn't do it. But I know that a lot of people like that. The mascots for other planets. All right. Locke would have the Greys, because that was the kind of the rebel group that fought against the Tavaran. I don't know what they would be, though. Maybe a tiny little rebel dude. Maybe. Some of them have like flat cats, which is another kind of creature. I think of cute creatures that would work. No, I envision abandoned stations being implemented in game. Personally, I don't know. The best guess would be stations that are empty, like basically stations we have now, but empty and probably more run down, infested with criminals. I think eventually the plan for things like abandoned stations would be that if you can clear out the criminals, as long as you're there, you can forcibly hold on to it and gain access to the systems. Maybe something like a control room where you can get into it and then change the control actions, and then you can get access to things like the refueling, repairing systems, and then you would just function like like you do now with terms of transferring money. You'd have someone go down and physically be like, hey, we'll repair you, but you need to pay us money, that sort of thing. Not as far as I know, Chaotic. The zero AUEC bug is just a random bug. Just a thought, but do you have a community Discord? I do have a community Discord. It's on Twitch, but I'll give you guys a thing to... Go Discord... There we go. I'm gonna copy and paste that. Problem is that there you go. That's the invite to the Discord. Earth Paul holding up a beer mug. Yes, there we go. Well, I'm not an Earth guy. Much more Terra. I'd have to go through each of the the planets' histories to get some good ideas. Exploiting a bug on the rock. They're flooding the sale of unlimited layer night and crash to the back-end services. Oh. Ritalin. There was one bug in one PTU where if you stepped on a step in Grimhex, there was one step that if you stepped on it with your character, it would kill everyone in the server. So yeah, there was a bug where if you glitched behind the Ledsky desk, like where the security is, and grabbed the gun, which is behind the desk, it used to be kind of like a half gun. If you touched it or tried to activate it, it would crash everyone in the server. So many problems with some of that stuff. So yeah, there's been, I believe it. At one point, I think we all, like everyone on the server, or everyone who was in that PTU, when it was happening, we would get people to Grimhex and everyone would jump on the step at once and kill everybody. Yeah, spawning like this, the Starfarer would destroy the Caterpillar. All of the large ships have had crashing issues. It gave you 8 UEC. Yeah. So many interesting bugs that exist in Star Citizen. For various reasons. God, I love the sun bug. Unterraformed. Most of the planets were not livable. They're not habitable, but they were terraformable. Actually, none of the planets were livable, were habitable, but they were all prime targets for terraformation. So likely something similar to Venus or Mars, just big. UDOS, yeah. September. We started moving today in terms of like packing up stuff. I've got my office is completely empty. I've got I've got a drawer like for like of stuff that I've thrown a bunch of stuff into, and I've got my lighting set up and my rigs. That's about it. That's all that's in this room, and my like suits. And that's it in this room. I was using auto clickers, yeah. I expect Stanton mascot video on my table by the end of the day. Oh yeah, you didn't know that? So, yeah, Kim and I've got a house. I've been advised not to spill a lot of details about it, so I won't, but Kim and I have a new house. I feel like Port Olisar, it's at this point, I think it would be a shame if CIG didn't have a climactic end for Port Olisar in mind. That would be, I would love to see a climactic last battle for Olisar. I'm not surprised that spanning indefinitely selling crash. Yeah, very smart DBS. Nishi? Come a little closer. Are you close? Are you close? I'm going to be very quiet. I'm not going to scream, I promise. But I'm going to tell you a little secret. Don't tell anybody else. You can go to the Aaron Halo now. You can actually go to the Aaron Halo. It is in-game. However, there's no locations for the Aaron Halo. So you have to jump between locations and cancel jump. The point of the Aaron Halo is to add the Aaron Halo stations, which allow you to jump to the Aaron Halo with the new asteroid tech. Is it so borked? That's because you're still using the old tech. Yep. The more you know. Yeah, I think the Aaron Halo will probably be added when they get the a lot of that other issues down. If PO gets destroyed by the Vandal Pirates, then what does that mean for Orison? Would it be this a shame if you only have to wait for a short time? Sounds like an interesting place. I feel like what would likely happen, this is just in my mind, a perfect scenario. The Xenothreat invasion of Stanton system happens. The Xenothreat go push directly to Grimhex and invade Grimhex. So Grimhex is a hostile station to anybody. Then you get missions from both criminals and lawful folk to fight Xenothreat, because Xenothreat is fucking with the Nine Tails. They're fucking with the Nine Tails shit. They're fucking with the Otoni Syndicate's shit. And they're fucking with the corporation shit. Nobody in Stanton wants the fucking Xenothreat around. So both sides of the law go fuck up some Xenothreat. And in a last desperate gasp, they launch an assault on Olisar as a means to get access to Orison, because Orison has shipyards and Xenothreat have Idrises. So those are the perfect places to conquer to set up a supply depot. They capture the supplies, they capture the shipbuilding materials, they capture the ships being built, which then means that they have a larger fleet that they can run with. With the military being stretched as far as it has been around the universe, there's no way a fleet could get there in time by the time the assault on Olisar started. So you would have players showing up from all sides of the law trying to stop the Xenothreat Idrises from assaulting Olisar. Again, this is pure speculation on my part. Wish fulfillment would be a desperate last stand around and on Olisar, having to capture points and hold them, with AI just coming in waves, and players trying to shoot down transport ships before they land. The main crime syndicate of the Stanton system is currently the Klimpar Shaw Syndicate, is what I've named them. But the Nine Tails are the premier gang. There are two different types of outlaw groups in Star Citizen. There are the syndicates and the gangs. The gangs are loud and proud and outlaws. They fuck shit up for fun. They're also pirates, but they do illegal shit because they're kind of like counterculture rather than being just pure in it for the profit. Syndicates are in it for the profit. They're in for the controlled for the profit. You know, the difference between like a street gang and a mafia. Olisar is a very, very old asset. I can't imagine the amount of like resources that go into keeping Olisar up. So they're likely going to want to switch Olisar over to the new station tech. And what they could do is they don't necessarily destroy Olisar. They could do something like that where it's this last glorious battle of Olisar. And at the end of that story, the Olisar is damaged, far too damaged. And then you set up a story where you have traders taking materials to Olisar, and then you swap out the Olisar, because we have damaged states. We've seen Olisar's damaged states because they've copied and pasted a lot of that assets all over the place. You then swap out between patches after that event is done for a new station. that looks sort of like Olisar, which we have those stations, which look kind of like Olisar, but they're using the new station tech. That would be the difference. That would be my theory. We don't know if Olisar is planning to die. We don't know what's going on with Olisar. CIG could not touch Olisar. They could just leave it as a memorial to what Star Citizen used to be. But I doubt that, but in the future. Oh, the ship of Theseus? Is it still the same place even if you've ripped it up and replaced all the boards? Yeah. I personally like the last stand of Olisar, but hey Frog, how you doing, buddy? Station 2.0, yeah. Do you think there will be any surviving capital ships from the Great Tavaran Purge of Elysium 4? Yes. Because Cabal exists. And they probably were there too. There were probably some capital ships, at least frigate or destroyer-sized capital ships on Cabal. Which is why we have the Prowler and the Talon, because they were reverse engineered from captured Talons and Prowlers on Cabal. Or Theseus, yeah. Yeah, it's a gas giant, but you could also hand wave it as that it was stabilized or got caught into some sort of weird eddy in the upper atmosphere, so it's deeper in the atmosphere, but it's kind of stuck there. Think the other Deep Space Nine station in Deep Space Nine, not Terok Nor, but whatever it's called, the other one that was sideways in a nebula. Is there any indication of what kind of content will be on the gas giants? Like, what do we do for the rest of the Crusader? Whaling. The space whales will be on Crusader, inside the Crusader's atmosphere. Likely gas mining. So going deeper into the atmosphere, you'll be able to gather certain gases. So you may have to go find pockets of that gas to mine. All right, y'all. I'm going to call it a night. Empok Nor, thank you. We've been streaming for over 2 hours. Thank you so much. Thank you for the raids. From Deadeye. Who else do we have? Iriella. I've screwed up the name, and I apologize about that. Oh, we got a round of beers. Let me do some beers for you guys. Exclamation point beers, add plus viewers 10. Boop. There we go. And I didn't see that Captain Adam asked, do you think each chapter will introduce different characters? No. Yes and no. I think we'll have new characters in Squadron 42, but we will. But I think you will always be a fighter pilot. But you will be able to meet other characters that are doing different things. You probably by the end of Squadron 42, you'll be part of Squadron 42 because you're not in the beginning, at least. You know a way in Wing Commander 3 to alter the outcome? Okay, there's. Any truth about Tavaran meat in Big Benny's products? All lies, I swear. And then, there you go. Some more beers for you guys. And Tagram Unlimited, thank you so much for that 3 months of support. The Firebug, thanks for that host. Sorry if I didn't get to you guys. I don't have the notifications up for this stream. I'll probably turn them on again. Just because I'm not monetizing these broadcasts anymore, just because it's just not worth it, really. And the only reason why I do monetization for my videos, by the way, guys, just for clarification, isn't because I need the money or I want the money. I think like I've had a huge surge of views, which has now made me earn like a little under $200 a month, from YouTube, from ad revenue. It's not a lot of money. It's nice, but I don't really do that for the money. It's mostly there because YouTube will intentionally will basically force your videos to not be recommended if you don't have monetization on them. So sadly, I need to have monetization on in order to ensure that people will watch. YouTube will recommend my videos. It's messed up. That's the reality of it. But with these, I think I'm just going to kind of not really bother with monetization on YouTube and just kind of keep these as fun things for you, the community, to hang out. Thank you guys for hanging out. Tomorrow we'll be back. I'll probably be streaming on YouTube and Twitch as well. We're not doing Star Citizen. Wednesdays are going to be kind of my variety days. Tomorrow I'm going to do something new. I'm going to try to stream myself painting minis. So we'll have 2 cams running and we'll have some chill music in the background. So if you guys want to come in and hang out for an hour or two while we paint my Imperial Guard soldiers, I'm terrible at it. I'm still learning it. So you can come and tell me what I'm doing wrong, but kind of have those kind of fun stuff. So coming in and hanging out with us tomorrow would be fantastic. Then on Thursday, we'll be doing Star Citizen or Zero to Hero run. Which is where we take a starter package that just has a starter ship and try to see how far we can go before CIG wipes, kind of doing that new player experience. Friday we'll open up the bar and we'll serve beers out of an actual ship for you guys to come by and grab a beer and do a little bit of light role play. And then Saturdays we're doing the Spice Must Roll Tabletop RPG and Captain's Table podcast. Now this week is the Captain's Table is this week is Hazard and Meyer. So we're gonna have Haz and Meyer show up and talk Star Citizen. So it'll be interesting to talk about that. Planet broke before the guard, baby. Yeah, that's the plan. So join us for that one. Galactic Historian viewers, Idris, History of the Idris Museum, the museum, Galactic Historian Museum piece is going to be up tomorrow around 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. So that's about 9 p.m. British Summer Time, so kind of later in the evening. So come by the YouTube and check that out as well. My name is Paul. This is the Astropub. Remember, hope to see you guys again soon, but if I don't, hope to see you someday in the black. And for those of you Galactic Historian viewers out there, remember, ex Historia ad Astra. Later, guys.
No, I didn't.
I'm gonna find someone for us to raid for you guys. Okay, Bub is doing something cool. The Bubbernaut's an awesome dude. We're gonna go send some love to him. Yeah, later, guys.